music is going to change, music is going to evolve, and if people want metal to still be something that we can go to concerts and see almost in any city, then it needs to still evolve and change. Like currently, like I think it is doing. Like we were just talking about hyperpop and all that shit, and I think Poppy is a good example of one of those artists that's doing that sort of well. And speaking of Knock Loose, also they just fucking had her on a song.
Yes,
so
they
that's,
did.
Yeah, ideas are cool, history is cool, culture is cool, but music is the baseline. And don't let your ideas about history, culture override your appreciation for music in its abstract, unrelenting force.
I personally believe that the further we get from keeping ourselves tied to the brand of metal, I think the more we flourish. I think the further we get from sitting here and saying what is metal and what isn't, I think that is what's holding us back. Who gives a fuck what the title is of what you're making? If it sounds good, if it sounds hardcore, if it sounds like it can fucking thrash, who gives a shit what your actual fucking title is? I personally think the subgenres, at a certain extent, can hold us back.
Can we give an amen in the chat?
oh yeah, definitely agreed.
People oftentimes get so lost in the genre name label that it like limits the art. People are so focused on like what is brutal technical death metal versus what's technical brutal death metal that they don't actually like focus on the art at hand.
You ever try making good music?
Yeah, the question is, are we here to make music or are we here to fucking name ourselves? Really?
Personally, I just want to please the gatekeepers. I don't care about the music itself.
Yeah.
I'm very much of the same sentiment, but I think it's fun to overanalyze and overcategorize. I think the main issue at hand is that metal isn't just a set of subgenres, it's a set of subcultural identities. For instance, black metal, when the term emerged, it was not necessarily talking about a specific style of music that was well defined. It was talking about a culture, a group of musicians in Norway at a certain time who had the same set of beliefs. And so these subgenres exist to draw in-group, out-group distinctions, which is, it's a way to maintain a culture. It's a way to maintain, especially because metal, it's traditionally countercultural. It's people who are disenfranchised trying to find community. And so arguing over what's metal and what isn't can be a fun exercise in genre analysis. I mean, I'm a music history buff, so I like tracing back the roots of metal and like talking about this aesthetics of evil, metal as a reaction to the 1960s counterculture and as like a pursuit of intensity. And I think there are some bands that check some of the boxes but don't represent the ethos of metal.
Yeah.
It's, I think, productive to like debate, whether or not this band is metal or punk or hardcore or what. But the big overarching thing that people should take away is that no reasonable human ever lets a genre label determine their music tastes.
Or it shouldn't determine what you write either.
It can be counterproductive. It can be counterproductive to creativity to sit there and you know, overanalyze to a certain extent, though, as well.
Yeah, and you can never analyze your own music in that way until it's already produced. All these labels refer to specific times and places, usually.
The people who have trailblazed genres that never existed before abandoned the conventions of that genre. That's just always been the case.
I was just going to say, literally speaking of black metal, dude, like black metal is one of those genres that started off trying to do something different than death metal. They were like, oh, death metal's too technical now, so we're going to strip it back, be what it was supposed to. And black metal literally, like, they were trying to do something different because they thought all death metal was repetitive, and now black metal is arguably one of the most repetitive genres. So, like, they became what they sought to destroy.
I mean, metal has literally done exactly what the trope of, like, hip-hop has kind of done, but metal started doing it way earlier because metal became pretty much, I mean, I'll say rock, not metal. Rock became the predominant genre back in, like, the 80s to 90s. It was the chart-topping everything. It was the controversial everything. It was the number one rock stars. That was how it like flowed in. Then hip-hop started doing the same because hip-hop suddenly became more authentic than metal.
True.
Because it hadn't had this big like influx of people trying to recreate it, not actually understanding, like, why are you doing this? Like, yeah, you like the sound, but how does that impact you as a human? Like, you're just doing it because you like how the rock stars go. But now hip-hop is starting to do what rock did back in the day, and now I feel like there's some new weird-ass underground genres, like, I mean, to me, trap metal and hyperpop are starting to do this new influx of sound. That's the same, like, energy that these other bands did. It's just a different genre.
And I think it's very telling that both hip-hop and metal, a lot of the really innovative periods, the subgenres that emerged got geographic labels. So there's East Coast hip-hop, West Coast hip-hop, and then Southern hip-hop. And then in metal, you have, Bay Area thrash, Teutonic thrash.
Floridian death metal.
Yeah, Floridian death metal, Swedish death metal.
Let's give respect to Brazilian metal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Brazilian thrash metal.
Exactly.
Shout out Sepultura.
Sepultura, go crazy.
Brazilian thrash metal was literally a fucking phenomenon because it was post falling of a dictatorship, and these people were so fucking angry and had no way to express it that they invented fucking thrash metal. I mean, come on now. We have to talk Brazilian thrash metal if we're going to talk intricacies in cultures and in where they're from.
Exactly. And the first thing that speaks to is that, once again, metal is a universal intensifier. There's like an ideal physiological state, and human bodies are more or less all pretty much the same, no matter where you're from. And so there's a universal thing you can strive for. And at the same time, the way we strive towards that is shaped by our environment. It's shaped by our culture, our political climate, and the ways we have to express ourselves, the means we have to express ourselves. A lot of the innovation that happened in punk and metal, I did a lot of reading on black metal, is why I keep coming back to that. But like the lo-fi aesthetic there, it's because these were just people in their bedrooms with 4-track recorders, and they knew they needed to express themselves, and these were their means.
Am I tripping, or did man make phone calls from prison and have those recorded?
He recorded in prison, but they wouldn't give him a guitar, so he started making ambient black metal with a keyboard.
Yeah.
He was actually able to record in Norway because their prison laws are a little bit different.
Yeah.
I like how they gave him a keyboard instead of anything else. Like, you don't get drums or a guitar.
Well, yeah, those have pointy
piano.
objects.
Uh-huh.
You can stab someone with a guitar string.
I'm going to strangle you
them.
with a keyboard if you ain't careful.
But the second point is that any notion of a genre or a subgenre, it's something that's referring to a specific situation. They arise because there's a group of musicians who are experiencing similar circumstances and decide that they need to express the same kinds of sentiments in similar ways, whether that's because they have the same socioeconomic status and so the same kinds of access to equipment, or maybe the regime they live under has certain kinds of restrictions on like technology, instruments, music. Sort of what that implies is that as soon as you can identify a genre, it's probably dead already. It's probably something that has made its mark, and whenever you start making music, you exist in the post of that genre. So like, punk was the most self-aware because it was the first one to acknowledge that it's post-punk. Metal hasn't quite realized that we're in the post-metal era. Anyone who claims they're making black metal, you're making post-black metal. The question is now, what is your contribution to the thing that Venom and Bathory and then all the Norwegians had to say? What's your new thing, your new twist on that idea?
Kill a motherfucker and then you're black metal.
Burn a church.
Till then you ain't got shit.
Murky political atmosphere has always bred revolutionary music.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
A lot of this music comes from simply hating what's being forced upon you. So you're going to create revolutionary music because nothing is more passionate than having somebody putting their hand on you and pressing you down.
Oppressive environments typically do create the most creative art. When artists are oppressed, typically that's where the innovation actually comes from.
Evolution breeds from pressure.
I'm a sucker for German expressionism. What can I say?
Expressionism.
Expressionism.
I'm a sucker for German extreme metal.
I'm a sucker for German industrial. That's a lie. I love industrial, but I don't listen much.
Name one other band other than Rammstein, Zach.
Kill motherfucking Depeche Mode.
Joke's on you, because Till Lindemann has a solo project.
Der Toten Hosen. Final answer.
I will leader your hosen right now.
I will tote your hosen right now.
So I wanted to talk also about the effect of gatekeeping on metal and how it's pushed away a lot of new fans. I find us in a world right now where sometimes it's extremely hard to get people into, especially the harder, more intense metal, because as soon as you start going to shows, you find these extremists that gatekeep what should and shouldn't be allowed, and it really pushes away a lot of new audience. And because of that, it's making it harder for this more experimental shit to come out on top.
That's where I stand on, like, the whole thing we just discussed for a while before, of this idea that these people are either not actually part of what we're talking about, or they are, like, too deep into it. Because gatekeeping, to me, seems like I just had such good thoughts that I stared at some books and read their titles on the wall.
Gatekeeping definitely comes from getting too deep into it. I definitely agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah, I feel you don't actually understand the purpose. Like, you're not letting other people try to get themselves done. You have your own buildup of all these ideas in your head and feel everyone else should know it already. That's like, in my idea of being like teaching someone how to skateboard when you're a pro skater and you don't want to teach them the basics. You're just annoyed at them for not knowing how to do the tricks you can do already.
You're too caught up on a brand and an identity than you are about what you're actually trying to portray.
Yeah, you're
Most certainly.
You weren't here before, so like, why are you here now type idea.
And it goes back to metal's status as a very important source of identity for a lot of people. It's a subculture more than it's a sound. I mean, that metal's one of the most diverse forms of music. Like, there's so many things that get called metal that sound nothing like each other because it's a culture.
Yeah.
If we want this culture to thrive, though, we need to have new members. And the thing is the more people that will listen to us and appreciate and understand us, the better. So the more open you are to new people and the more you are open to letting people bring their own opinions into this whole thing, the better we all end up.
Yeah. Gatekeeping definitely stifles creativity because a lot of the innovation comes from kind of the fringe ideas and less of like the established ideas that already exist. And so gatekeeping just kind of pushes out some of those fringe ideas because it doesn't fit the established like definitions of a genre.
It's like, this genre isn't what it meant to me to you, so like you need to prove to yourself that it means as much to you as it does to me. But also, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate real quick and say that kind of, if you gatekeep, that to an extent could theoretically legitimize the genre more of not letting people who don't actually understand what it's about. Like in hip hop, if you're not really down with the culture, you're not gonna make it anywhere. Metal's different, which is what's weird to me. And I mean, why I like metal a lot. You don't need to be like down with the culture to be able to do it well and get respect. But also, I don't agree with that opinion. That's just
I think being like down with the culture is slightly different than gatekeeping, because I feel like gatekeeping is where somebody almost takes a sense of identity in the genre and then they want to impose that identity on other people, as opposed to like if you come from a certain scene and like you, I don't know, have those kind of established feelings. I don't know. It's different than gatekeeping, I would feel, because I feel like gatekeeping is, like you said, it's people trying to impose their conceived notions of a genre.
I guess there's a difference between gatekeeping and vibe checking.
Metal wanting to keep in this marginalized niche is the biggest hypocrisy to me.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The problem is when you conflate metal as a culture and metal as music. I mean, music is a force beyond any sort of humanity. It's the nature of metal as a universal intensifier. Anyone can appreciate it if it's put in the right context. And I respect wanting to draw a boundary because, I mean, metalheads who listen to like exclusively extreme metal, they want to be able to socialize with people who are on the same wavelength, like musically, culturally, psychologically. At the same time, people who aren't part of that culture appropriating elements of metal is not a problem. It's good. It makes people more likely to be able to get into this subculture if they're dedicated. I understand the psychological origins of gatekeeping. I don't know what the solution is, except gatekeepers stay on Reddit.
I think like a lot of the most influential metal bands are not the like established metal bands who've been making the same music for 30 years, but it's the artists who take elements of metal and apply that to their own sound or other things.
And 30 years from now, those are going to be the artists that people are gatekeeping about. Those are going to be the core canonical artists of a new subgenre. And that's only for future generations to decide.
The true solution is to take individual responsibility. The true solution is to sit there and go, just because this is a next generation sound, does that mean that it's instantly worse than my generation? No, it's just different.
Yeah.
I'll listen to it for a few years and then tell people that it sucks.
Well, and then also figure out that music is opinionated. Just because you think it's dog shit doesn't mean that it is dog shit. You just don't like it. That does not mean that it's not good music.
But what if I am the supreme, what if I am the moderator of the Reddit?
Then you're the problem.
Then I think I have officially credentials to say.
These people trying to be Reddit mods in real life.
I think we need more of those.
No.
Zach, what are you a moderator to Reddit?
He is.
Dude, but
It's the Rule 34.
the government
mod.
is not allowed to know about the Reddit I moderate. Or I'm fucked. There's a reason
Do
I have
you
a
actually
VPN on my
moderate
phone.
Rule 34?
I'll let you find out.
Zach is the head moderator for the Rule 34 subreddit.
Just look at how much Fraggle content is on it, and then you be the judge, Hayden.
I don't want to look on it.
Fraggle porn subreddit.
Just you be the judge.